Welcome back to the Weekly Huddle YouTube channel, and happy draft day, everybody. This is a continuation on my earlier video I posted today of my sleeper defense. Now I'm going to be going over my all-sleeper offense. The system we're going to be running is a 1 tight end, 2 receiver, 2 running back, RPO-heavy scheme. So we're going to have one more power side of the offense, as well as a quicker, more flashy RPO pass-heavy kind of offense. So that's going to be the style we're running with, and let's just go right into it. So first up, we have our right tackle, Andrew Stuber. Stuber is from Michigan. I have him as rated as a very high second-round pick. I think I'm probably super high on him compared to everybody else. I have him as my 5th offensive tackle on the board. No one else has him above their 22nd, I believe, from everywhere else I looked. And I just think he is good. He's going to fit best on the outside. He's very versatile, which is both a positive and a negative for him because he really couldn't find a home at Michigan. But at the same time, it just shows that he can go out there and he can play all 5 positions. I think I like him best on the right-hand side, and I think I like him best at outside of offensive tackle. He was moved in at guard a lot for the Senior Bowl. Didn't take any reps at tackle, which I think is just because it shows the overall lack of depth, or overall increased depth they had at tackle at the Senior Bowl. Don't want to call anybody out in the guard section there. But so he really, when he was at guard, he kind of struggled with some NFL talent, power, and things like that. But at tackle, I think he'll do just fine with that, with his anchor and his power and things like that. He's very technical. I think he's really technically sound. I think he lacks a bit of the elite athleticism, which is why I have him as a right tackle instead of a left. I don't think you should have him as your blindside guy, or they're going to have their more athletic, bendy edge rushers. As a guy who can come in and be in that kind of RPO offense where he can use his intelligence and not get caught downfield, has decent footwork, has some good hand placement, decent power, but doesn't really need to drive guys on the field in an RPO system. I think he'd be our best right tackle for this position, especially being a sleeper. So yeah, higher on him. He's a 35 on my big board, but so I think he shouldn't be a sleeper, but based on what everyone else thinks, he's definitely a sleeper in my book. Moving on from that, we're going to go to right guard, which is going to be Cade Mays from Tennessee. Mays was recruited as a tackle to Georgia. He was a 5-star recruit, and you can see that athleticism on tape. He moves super well laterally. I think that his biggest issue is that his footwork is atrocious, especially because when he played tackle. He just never got deep enough in his sets, and he would never really be able to fully feel comfortable out there. So I think kicking him inside the guard where he can use his nastiness, he wants to bury guys on every play. He's got some power when he gets the smaller guys up at the top levels of the defense, like the linebackers and DBs. He can get up there, and he can get up there fast. He's got a good get off. He's pretty good overall as an athlete, and I think it'll be even more accentuated when he goes inside to guard. So I think having a guy who loves the run blocking as he does, whose footwork is more choppy and wants to be more lateral than depth, I think that works best as guard and works best in an RPO system. So he fits our little scheme here, but overall as a prospect, I think he's just really good as a guard instead of a tackle. I do have him ranked as a tackle in my rankings, just because I think he'd be a guy that for an RPO team, he'd probably fail an outside at tackle before kicking him into guard. But at the same time, I think guard would be his final home when he gets to the NFL. He needs to work on some technique things, so if you put him out there, it might be a little rough at first. But outside of that, I think if you can rein in the stallion, I think you will get a really good player in Cade Mays. Up next is going to be our center, Chris Owens from Alabama. He played tackle, center, guard. I have him rated as a center. I think he fits best as an interior offensive lineman just because when he was out at tackle, his lack of elite athleticism really showed, and he would get beat to the outside a lot. He'd really struggle. But as an inside blocker, I think he's a better athlete than showed on the outside, obviously, because he was able to play the outside decent, not great, but he was not struggling as much as some other interior offensive linemen would be. So I think he has some better athleticism on the inside. His technique overall, I think maybe due to being stressed for being a lack of an athlete with lack of get off and things like that, he struggles to really get his hand placement out there. I think he's just a smart player, which is definitely what you want at center. He comes from the Alabama system, started almost all 5 spots for them, guard, tackle, center. So I think he's very flexible, he's very versatile, and I just think as a guy you want anchoring in the middle of your line to be able to identify blitzes and things like that, somebody coming out of that Alabama system who's been a 3-year starter at different positions is somebody you really want in your system. So I think grabbing him, he's my center 6. I haven't done a lot of centers, particularly just because I think a lot of these guards can play centers, and I've rated them as guards. So I feel like I should have just rated this out of interior offensive lineman, but I didn't, so that's a little bit on me. I might have to move on to doing that next year, but yeah, 185 on my board, 6.5 grade. You could probably get him in like the 5th, 6th round and be happy as like a backup, flexible, versatile kind of guy on your offensive line. So that's why he's our starting center on our sleeper team. Going to left guard now is somebody I'm surprised. I was super high on him. I docked him a little bit as the season went on, but like Ed Ingram from LSU is just phenomenal. I think that his technique is really good. I think he gets off the ball pretty well. He does everything good, nothing elite. I think he's one of those guys who come in and he becomes one of your what's it called when you can't remove them. It's a word. It's escaping me. Where like they're steadfast. They can't really move. You can't really find anybody better than them, but you always feel like you can't upgrade from them. Initially, anyway, I think he can grow if he adds more pounds out to him. I think he can add more power to his frame. Overall, though, his technique is pretty solid. He's got some good movement skills. I think, like I said, the only thing he could really work on would be like maybe adding some strength to his frame. But yeah, he's just like a really high floor, low ceiling kind of guy who I think you can grab in the second round. And I have his guard number 4, which is, I guess, kind of a consensus with other places, but I think that not enough public attention is being put on Ed Ingram. Love his tape. Love his tape. He was one of my first draft crushes of this cycle. Moving on to left tackle, and this is when I was the most iffy on because there was a lot of good tackles I probably could have put here, but Rasheed Walker out of Penn State, I have him as a grade 70. Actually, I'm a little lower on him than some of the other places are, such as Walter Football and TDN, but I think Walker is he's not physically gifted at all. Like, he's very rough when it comes to athletics, but I think his technique is good enough that you could plug him in. He could be a low-end starter for you day one. Not much ceiling there, but I think technically, starting for Penn State, things like that, he can come in, and as long as you don't ask him to get into too deep of sets and face up against these fast, bendy edge rushers, and like I said, we're running this RPO system where he's going to be moving to the next level anyway. We're not running a lot of screens where he's going to be at a disadvantage. If I wanted to, I'd probably run it with like Cade Mays and Andrew Stuber on the right side. I probably wouldn't run a lot of screens to the left side because that's where Walker is really at his weakest, is blocking in space. So I think that Walker being our just steadfast, technical left tackle who can make sure that our guy's being kept clean for the few seconds that he's going to be holding onto the ball would be good for our offense in this. And I think it's just an overall solid left tackle prospect. Nothing insane. You're not going to get a lot out of him, but he's going to be floating around the league as a backup for a while and be like a pinch starter here or there. Kind of think of who was the tackle for Oakland. He's not nearly the size of him, but he was a tackle for Oakland and the Jets and the Bills, and he would float around and just be guys like 6th, 7th offensive lineman that would come in and start whenever you had injuries at your tackle position. Next up is going to be our slot, and I thought, what kind of slot would I want that's like a traditional route runner kind of guy who also would love to get in there and block for the running backs? And I thought Kyle Phillips. I think, again, I'm a little lower than him than other places are, but like at the same time, not enough people are talking about him. He's a really hard-nosed football player. He is your traditional slot, undersized guy, more quick than fast, great routes run, knows how to work off a scrambling quarterback, has a great attitude, is really strong when it comes to going over the middle of the field and taking hits or secure catches. I just think that he doesn't bring a lot when it comes to, red zone targeting, things like that, where he's not going to have this great catch radius. I don't think he's not going to be a jump ball kind of guy. So I think that's what really limits him to be a slot-only kind of player, whereas some of the other slot guys, I think, could progress to being these more outside receivers if you give them the chance because they have the physical tools. Kyle Phillips is really just lacking those physical gifts from God, which I think will limit him to being like a 6th-round pick. But yeah, hard-nosed football player, will block for our running backs, and is a great working off of our quarterback, great working off of broken plays and things like that. Moving on to our outside wide receiver is going to be Makai Polk out of Mississippi State, 74.5 grade. I love Makai Polk. I think he's a less athletic Michael Thomas. Like, his route running, they're the same size. He has great route running, especially in the short and intermediate realm. And I think he's going to be a guy that you get the ball to him, he catches it, and either, like in Madden, you can possession catch it, just that, over and over again. You get 10 to 12 yards a pop off these slants and deep developing flag routes, things like that he can set up with some double moves on the outside while you're waiting for the RPO to be read. I think that Polk is that kind of guy. His biggest struggle is his lack of athleticism with the ball in his hands. I think that he he tracks the ball well. He does everything well as a receiver. Besides, when he gets the ball in his hand, he's not able to go laterally or anything. That he's going to go forward. He's not going to be able to truck a guy. He's kind of skinny, so he's just going to fall forward for yards. But he's not going to get many. He's the opposite of Deebo Samuel. Basically, he's not good with the run after the catch ability at all. So I think as a pure receiver, I really like him. I have him a little higher than a lot of other places are. Like I have him at 13, as opposed to 31, 27, and not ranked at all. So I think just, as a pure receiver for us, who we have Kyle Phillips, who could be our run after the catch guy, in a run-heavy offense where he just has to get open on these more simpler routes where he can add the nuances that he did at Mississippi State too. I think that's the kind of guy we want on the outside. And then adding some more size at our tight end position, we have Austin Allen out of Nebraska. Austin Allen is a 6'8 tight end, and I think he's getting slept on a lot. He's my tight end 11, which doesn't seem like, he's not a sleeper. He's not that high up your board. But like at the same time, I like a lot of these. I like this tight end class. There's a lot of different flavors. And Austin Allen is just, he does one thing really well right now, but I think he can progress which is blocking. I think he progresses as a receiver. Come a few years in seasoning in the NFL. He may not ever be an elite receiver, but at the same time, I don't think he's gonna ever not be able to see the field because he's so good at blocking. He's so good at using his size and blocking. He's not like these typical big tight ends who are big and bulky who look like they have cement shoes on. I think he can move decently well for his ability. He's not going to be super creative with the ball after the catch. And he doesn't run this expansive route tree. He's not going to flex out to your slot and be able to shake smaller DBs. But you put him out there, and he can just be bigger than everybody else and go up there and get those catches in the red zone. He'll be, like I said, in an RPO system, he's going to be our blocker. And then if we come down to the red zone, that's your guy. He's 6'8". He has the catch radius. He has solid hands. I think he can be a guy that he'll only have 30 receptions in a season, 20, 30 receptions, but he'll have 7, 8 touchdowns just from being in the red zone itself. So more of a blocker kind of guy, but does have some upside when it comes to red zone receiving. And because I like both these running backs so much, and quarterback was I was kind of iffy on because I'm not too big of this quarterback class outside of the top 1 or 2 guys. I'm going to go quarterback first with Caleb Ellaby out of Western Michigan, someone I haven't been hearing a lot of conversations about. Ellaby, I think, of the guys, of your Keel Glasses and things like that, where you're looking at these later round dudes who can I take a shot on? I think Caleb Ellaby is probably your best bet. He probably should have went back to school for another year. He probably could have raised his stock a little more than that. But I think he ran a lot of the zone RPO system at Western Michigan, throwing it to, what's the receiver's name? Sky Moore a lot. And they had a really good season. So I think his processing is going to be pretty low because he wasn't asked to do a lot of that, but I'm not asking him to do a lot of that in this offense. So for this offense, and for a team that needs a quarterback in a pinch, because you look at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts ran a lot of RPO for the Eagles, and they were able to get a lot out of him. Now, Caleb Ellaby isn't even remotely in the same ballpark as an athlete. He's a very pocket quarterback, game manager kind of guy. He's not going to be able to scramble and get big yardage, but I think for what you're asking him to do, he has a strong arm. He's able to fit into those tight windows. Going through and really ripping it in those RPO kind of systems, I think you'll be happy with Caleb Ellaby. And he's got a higher floor than guys like Akil Glass, these other guys that are going to be more projects that still are going to need some time to season. So he may need time to season with his processing to be a full-time quarterback, backup kind of guy, but immediately right away, just because he's so versed in the RPO system, if you can just dumb your offense down to an RPO system, he could run it pretty well for you because that's what he ran at Western Michigan to some good success. All right. And our first running back is somebody, if you heard, KeelPro88 posted it on his channel and on Spotify, or maybe just on Spotify a day ago, was me, him, and his good friend Dan. We all went on and we talked about our running back rankings, and this guy I have him as running back number 4. They had him as in the 20s. So he's clearly a sleeper for me. It's Hassan Haskins out of Michigan. I have him as a 77.5 overall grade, 81 on my board, running back 4. Everyone else is 12, 14, 19, stuff like that. I think he physically matches up to how Le'Veon Bell was when he came out of Michigan State, and he runs with that same patience. I think he can add. I think they didn't utilize him well enough in the passing game, whereas he could be a good passing down back, especially when he got flexed out to the slot. He showed some of that with how he was able to decelerate, accelerate into breaks and things like that, and really be able to shake corners and DBs. But they just never got the looks because he was on these small, shorts, crossers, kind of the emergency if blitz, go to this route kind of thing. I don't think he's a great athlete, but neither was Lev Bell coming out. He ran like a 4.6, so I think he didn't run specifically for that reason. Haskins could lose the weight and then become a better athlete. I think he doesn't. He has a little bit of wiggle, but he's nothing great outside in the open field. I think all of his elusiveness is going to come within the box, and he has that power. He's not going to drive a pile, but he'll definitely run a couple dudes over. I think he's got that Lev Bell potential. And in a class where there's not a lot of high-end running backs outside the top three, when I tell you that somebody has Lev Bell potential, and even if he can become half the back he was when he was at Pittsburgh, that's still a hit with this weak running back class. And then finally, for our speed back, change-up back, guy who can be a big-time contributor right away in the passing game, unlike Hassan Haskins with his potential, is Tristan Edinger out of Baylor. 5-year starter, but never really got like a full workload, so I'm not too worried about his durability. He was a return specialist. He helped in the receiving game, took the outside handoffs, kind of like that Matt Breida role, where like he's going to be taking these big, wide zone handoffs, pitches, tosses, things like that, and try to attack the outside corner. Whereas in between tackles, that's all Haskins, and Haskins can even be a lead blocker for him, which he did sometimes at Michigan. So I think as a guy who can come in and be that home run hitter for your offense, Tristan Edinger could come in and do that, be pretty elusive, and also contribute to your receiving game out of the backfield, as well as your return game. So that is our sleeper offense. This is the final look at it. I'm just trying to get this out real quick so I can go out and get ready for the draft tonight. I am super excited for it. I'll be streaming day 2 and day 3, so come on and join with that. But other than that, just throw a like on this. Go check out the defense one if you haven't yet, and I'll get out those cheat sheets as soon as I can. They may be a little after the draft, but hey, retroactive learning about prospects your team has already taken is still worth it. So, until then, I'll see you guys next time.